Okay. So my talk today is going to be talking about how we can support both yourselves and any personal trainers, fitness coach in this room with dieting and improving your confidence. And I'm going to be talking about it in relation to Slimming Club. So I'm really sorry if there's anyone here who's like a Slimming World consultant or loves Slimming World, you probably want to leave because I'm going to throw a bit of shade on it. So yeah, basically what I'm going to be talking about is my own personal research into Slimming Clubs and the impact that it's had on people's confidence, the impact I'm seeing now working with people, and then ultimately what is the better way? How can we support people to lose weight in a way that actually improves their confidence as well as actually getting them results? So if you do want to do it's all blurred out, but if you do want to do the whole Instagram thing and follow me, please do, because I'm nearly at 10K, so I might get a few sponsorships, potentially. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Lucy. I am the head coach, CEO, founder, whatever shitty word you want to give me for Lift Your Life coaching. So my second coach, Leanne, is here as well. I do have Laura, but she hasn't come because she's saying that she's too far because she's in Scotland. But basically, we support people typically women, who want to lose body fat and regain or just find confidence in themselves after years of yo-yo dieting, or just ultimately they don't have a clue what to do. They've got no confidence in the gym or in themselves. And things you should know about me: absolute Disney geek, so anyone in here who loves Disney, woo-woo. I am a complete introvert. You probably won't get that vibe from me when I come to things like this, and I seem quite out there, but I will need to hibernate for about 2 years after this event. So I'm not actually going to ask you this question because we've done plenty of questions, and I think it was actually in Sophia's talk that you all pretty much answered this, that at some point in your life, you have probably not felt good enough. And in today's talk, I'm not here to just basically bash sins and points and all that and how it's low shit and how it don't work, but I want people to consider the deeper psychological impact that Slimming Clubs are having on people's self-perception, their self-belief, and ultimately their confidence, and feeding these narratives that people actually hold about themselves. So I'm not just another PT bashing Slimming World trying to go viral. I do that on my Instagram, but this is not what I'm here today. So in my final year of university, because I did do a degree, paid nearly 40 grand that I'm in debt for and I'm not using it, but in my final year I ran a self-piece of research, and we could do it on whatever we wanted. So I thought, right, at this point in my life, I'm loving fitness. I've just come out of eating disorder recovery. I want to do something about that. So I applied to work with the eating disorder specialist psychologist and the sports psychologist, and I got assigned to the Die Hard feminist, and I was like, fuck, brilliant. But I thought I could probably make this fit. So I looked at how we could maybe look at female bodies and the pressures to be in smaller bodies, and how we could relate this to dieting clubs, because I've been exposed to Slimming Clubs for years. My mum on and off diet clubs for as long as I could tell you. I tried them, failed myself. And just something about them just didn't sit right. So I thought, well, what a better opportunity to actually do some research about it. So my research was looking at how these groups played a part in the desire to be thin for women. Were they enhancing the issue? Were they helping the issue? And ultimately what I actually found in this piece of research, the first thing was that women felt connected and a part of something, which we know is a really good thing when it comes to weight loss. Having that social support, for accountability, for encouragement, and feeling connected by something mutual, because any of you in this room who maybe have been on a diet or tried to lose weight, it can be quite isolating if you're the only person in the office, maybe with your own meals or saying no to certain things. So if you've got that environment around you, it can be really helpful. Another thing I found was this paradox of feeling free but also restricted. So free in that there's no calorie restrictions or you can't eat carbs. It was actually quite an inclusive diet for the most part, but there were rules. There were rules saying, this is too many sins, so certain situations became impossible. And if there are rules, ultimately, you do have this black and white thinking of being on a diet, being off because you're either doing it or you're not. Weight loss feeling like a competition. It became very much about what everyone else was doing rather than just purely your own individual journey. Everyone starts the diet for themselves, but when you go to these clubs, it's who's lost the most weight, who's the biggest loser, let's give them a certificate this week, woo. So it became a competition, which not only creates an easier, unhealthier relationship with the scales, but it's unrealistic, because if someone's got more weight to lose, inevitably they're going to see bigger drops. More issues with food before they started. So with two of the ladies that I spoke to, one ended up with an eating disorder from going to Slimming World, which is quite scary. And another reported being made to feel like a bad person for gaining weight, which means obviously holding more of a negative relationship with the scales ultimately, but obviously with herself as well, feeling not good enough if you've been told that you've gained weight, so that's not a good thing. It's simple, it's convenient for now, but knowing what to do is another story. So obviously the benefits of slimming clubs is they're very accessible, they're very cheap, they've got pretty simple systems. You know, you don't need to go and buy all these supplements. You can probably just nip down to Morrison's and get started and you'll be sound. But these participants have done multiple runs of Slimming Worlds. They've done Weight Watchers, then Slimming World, and gone back and what have you. And if they worked, they wouldn't need to be going back. They still weren't where they wanted to be, as they hadn't built up the long-term skill set for maintaining weight loss. So this then fed that narrative of, you know, I can't do it, because if I'm starting and stopping, why am I starting and stopping? So now, having worked and spoke with hundreds of ex-slimming clubbers in my time, what things am I noticing even more? The first thing is the scale is everything. The loss on the scales becomes our weekly focus. If they don't see it, they are a failure. We know the scale is unpredictable and it's only somewhat in our control. And I like to use a bit of an analogy of traffic for this. I like explaining things with analogies, you'll find that out about me. So with traffic, you could check in advance. You could see how long it's going to take you. You could see if there's any closures on the M62 or what have you, but you could still hit traffic and be late. It's only somewhat in your control, even if you did absolutely everything you could, and it's the same with the scales. And these frameworks of the entire measure of success being around how much you lose, the weeks where these women inevitably don't lose weight, because you don't lose weight every single week, it's just another reinforcement of this narrative of failure, because if success is weight loss, everything else is going to be a failure. The next thing is this belief that it's their fault they can't stick to a diet. We know the long-term success of Slimming Club rates is low. Like, I don't need to pull out some research statistics. I think you all know someone who's done Slimming World 20 times and still isn't where they want to be. But the marketing doesn't show this. It shows these few and far success stories. It's a bit like social media, it's a highlight reel. You see on the magazines, this person lost 20 stone and what have you, and they're amazing. But if people who join slimming clubs were given statistics of how many people started, stopped, restarted, regained the weight, they wouldn't be seeing themselves as a failure, because they'd actually be able to look at it in the bigger context and go, okay, other people are doing this too. I mean, if they did see the statistics, no one would sign up, would they? But that's not the point. The point is they see themselves in isolation as the failure, because all they can see around them is these people succeeding. So the only logical assumption is, I'm the problem. You know, I can't stick to a diet. I'm a failure. And whether you realise it or not, the way that you label yourself in one element of life has a massive crossover to other walks of life. And I learnt this quite a lot this year. So I went through some therapy early this year, and I realised that some very early childhood experiences that I had created this inner narrative that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't enough. And anything that happened to me after that event only strengthened that belief. So if people are joining slimming clubs already with this narrative, think like what we discussed earlier, that, you know, you're not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not attractive enough, whatever it is, these failures from dieting only strengthen those core beliefs and make them more dominant. Black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking. Any diet with a food rule has, you know, it creates all or nothing thinking. And the problem with it is it feeds into this narrative of failure even more, because any time you deter from the diet, you failed in some way. I'm going to use another analogy, a bit like a driving test. So, well, I'll know because I fucked my first driving test really bad, but every single minor adds up to a major. And then when you major, it's failed, it's game over. And I see slimming club diets a bit like this, that you're inevitably going to fall off the rules at some point because it's stupid and unrealistic. And there's only so many minors that someone's going to have before they just give up. It's like a major confidence knock. They add up over time. And the last thing is believing that life is going to be better at X weight. And I'm not going to argue and say losing weight can't better your life, because it can. You know, it can make you feel better about yourself. It can improve your health. It can improve your well-being. But there's no focus on happiness coming as this byproduct of, if you exercise more, you're going to feel happier and better in yourself. If you're eating better, you're sleeping better, all these things are going to improve your life and make you happier. It's not about that. It's get to your target weight. We'll give you your lifetime membership. You know, you're a gold member. You'll go in a magazine. We'll put you on Instagram. I don't know. You've completed it. So then there's this focus that I will be happier when I am at X weight. And that becomes the hyper-focus. And if life's going to be better at this goal weight, then the personal dissatisfaction of where someone is right now is going to live on and be pretty dominant. So not only do these slimming clubs not get people results, it's damaging people's relationships with themselves and who they are at this moment in time. So what should we be doing when it comes to fat loss to support psychological well-being and inner confidence? How is it that we should be supporting people, or you should be supporting yourself if you are wanting to lose weight, in a way that not only gets you results, but actually improves your confidence along the way? The first one is moving away from the goddamn fucking scales. Like, it's quite an obvious one for so many reasons, but placing your self-worth on a metric that is only somewhat in your control is going to make you lack self-belief. So what can you control? With the clients we work with, we have a massive focus on the processes. Focus on the things that are going to get you from A to B and you're going to get to B, rather than simply focusing on something that you can't control. If you are in a calorie deficit, you are going to see changes in how your body looks and how you feel and how you look in photos. So look at these things too. Don't just put all your eggs in this not so controllable basket. And if you are going to be looking at body weight, it's not for everyone. Look at it over time rather than every single week. And provide yourself or your clients with an education that weight is not fat. What does the scale actually weigh? And really just normalize these fluctuations, because fluctuations happen. You know, if you haven't slept very well, if you've not had great sleep, if you're at a certain point in your menstrual cycle. And this is a bit of a controversial one. Some people might disagree with me on this, but I actually think weighing yourself and seeing scale weight fluctuations is a really good opportunity to learn about yourself and your body, because you understand when it reacts and changes. And that can be quite empowering. The second thing is focusing on short-term milestones rather than a target weight, because success in fat loss isn't the goal weight, it's keeping it off. That's the real win. So instead, celebrate the short-term changes and milestones which are creating this long-term change, so the process goals, the things that you are doing to get you towards this goal. Because I think having goals is super important. It obviously gives you direction, but it gives you the sense of accomplishment. A bit like that minor major analogy in reverse here. All the little small things that you do add to your confidence bank. So how do we add to these confidence miners? Pretty simple. Set yourself or your clients small manageable things that you can do. So for someone it could be increasing their daily movement, getting your steps up. Because we know more daily movement is going to support long-term weight management. And if you can tick that off for 30 to 60 days, it gives you a sense of accomplishment. It's nothing ridiculously hard, but it gives you that boost of confidence. And the more little boosts you get, the more resilience you have to setbacks, because you can see them objectively for what they are rather than I am the problem, I am a failure. And the more boosts, the more self-belief, the more confidence you're going to have. Basically, Emma's talk in one slide. Weight training, practices of empowerment. And from my experience, I'm sure many of you will agree, you know, weight training has made you feel more confident. We know from Emma's talk and the research that does support that. If you're feeling stronger and you're believing in yourself more, you're going to feel better about yourself just day to day. So not only does this support confidence, but if you are weight training, exercising, you're more likely to eat well, you're more likely to practice, you know, going to bed earlier, sleeping well, because if you do one health conducive behaviour, you're going to do another. It's that knock-on effect. So inevitably gets you better results, which is going to improve your confidence because you're actually seeing the results you want to see. Body image support alongside fat loss, again, pretty similar to what some of these guys have said, and getting people more appreciative of what their body can do rather than purely what it looks like. Because wanting to change your body is not a bad thing. But when it comes from a place of compassion, because you do value your body and you do appreciate it for what it can do, this is always going to make your process more positive, because it's coming from a place of self-love and compassion and just wanting to be a better version of yourself rather than a place of self-hate. I hate my body and I need to change it. And if you're coming from a place of self-hatred, it's not coming from a place of confidence. Education, because knowledge is power, and a lack of confidence comes from lack of knowing, because ultimately that is what confidence is. It's having assurance in something and feeling sure about something. And rules and systems of diets just leave people feeling confused, like, what should I be doing? I don't understand. And again, it feeds that narrative that they're the problem. So even having a very basic understanding of nutrition, of energy balance, makes you feel a bit less of an idiot, and you can identify that you are not the problem. It's just something maybe that you're doing that's not quite right. And it brings a lot of sense of hope that there is a solution if you're not seeing the results you want to see right now, rather than this fixed mindset of I'm the problem, I'm the issue. And looking beyond just a calorie deficit, because self-care, sleep, stress management, these things will all help with nutritional adherence. So obviously helping with fat loss, adding to the confidence bank because you're seeing more results. But simply looking after yourself makes you feel better about yourself. Like, when you've not slept and you're a stressed, hot fucking mess, you don't feel great about yourself. Whereas when you are looking after yourself, you do feel better about yourself. You're going to feel more confident as a result. And confidence comes as well from blossoming outside the comfort zone. So once you've created this base layer of confidence, I think really pushing yourself to do just small things that do push you out of your comfort zone. Like we did it earlier this year, didn't we, Leanne? We got you doing a photo shoot. And it wasn't about getting you abs or anything. It was that you've never done anything like that. You've never been particularly comfortable standing in front of a camera. But how did it make you feel doing that shoot?
I felt really empowered. So I went through my 20s and there are very few photographs of me because I hate my photograph taken. So to stand there in front of people was like the most empowering thing. I just cried afterwards. Just cried.
In a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah. So just setting yourself, it doesn't have to be a photo shoot, just doing things that challenge you a little bit. It just allows that inner confidence that you've created to flourish. And what I want to end on really is just saying that what I've said today isn't going to stop people from joining slimming clubs and doing these fad diets. I don't think anything anytime soon will, but if what I've said today can just reach 5 people, whether it's coaches, whether it's people themselves wanting to lose weight, and they can implement it with themselves, their clients, to embark on a journey not just to lose weight, but keep it off and feel better about themselves in the process and feel more confident, then ultimately I've done my job here. And I've done that in very, very quick time because I can speak very fast, so that's me.
Do you want to do some questions?
Probably should really, shouldn't I? Because I think everyone else has. Yes, Claire?
So if you move someone away from using the scales as like validation,
Mhm.
measure their self-worth or progress, and then you get them tracking their goals as like their confidence bank, how do you then move them away from basing their worth on that instead?
I think we don't just put it all in one basket. So it's looking at what they need to do to get from A to B and looking at various different things and things that are in their control, things as well that are going to benefit them in life. So like we'll set them things like daily movement tasks. And it's not a case of you're a success or a failure. And what we implement a lot is range targets with clients. So rather than saying, right, you need to do 10,000 steps a day, we're going to aim between 8 and 10. So there's less margin to succeed and fail. But I think it's having multiple different things. And understanding as well that you don't need to be 100% all the time. I think that's another thing that we try and support people with is aiming to have better weeks than perfect weeks, aiming to have a 60, 70, 80% week is better than 0. Does that kind of answer your question? Awesome.
When people are really sort of wrapped up, which you'll probably see more with new clients in
Yep.
like the slimming club mentality,
Mhm.
how do you support them through that more over to this way of doing things?
It's just one step at a time, really. So it's looking at what are their biggest struggles. Is it food labeling? Is it attachment to the scale? And working on one single thing at a time, the thing that's probably having the biggest psychological impact, and then introducing the things slowly that make them realise, oh, actually, I don't need to do that. I don't need to count my sins. I don't need to be weighing myself all the time. And I think when they start to actually see the positives of it happening, so it won't be an overnight thing, but if they start to see the positives, I'm feeling really good doing this exercise over time, they'll maybe then realise that that's something they can put more energy and emphasis into rather than just purely the skills. But it's unfortunately not an overnight fix. As you'll know as well, people who've come from slimming clubs, it takes a lot of time to move them away from it, which is why it's adding to the confidence bank over time rather than just do that and you'll be sound.
Any other questions?
Do you think there's a place for, because like you said at the start of your presentation, I think a big thing that women and people take a lot from is the community and the social aspect and the accountability and doing
Yeah.
it with other people who have the same goals, but they're all affiliated with a plan. And you think, is there not space in the market for one that is, I know Sophia and like today is like part of that, but in terms of local groups, do you not think there is like a gap in the market for something that isn't affiliated with a programme but is just like general health and like support and accountability and things? I just think it's crazy that it doesn't exist.
I think it will be brilliant. I think it's how you market that to people, because I think people love the idea of this quick fix, and again, it's like feeding into that narrative of, if you're in a smaller body, then you are better. And if that's, there's a community where you can go and do that, people then want that. I think it's only when you've gone through it and come out the other side that you would then appreciate something like that. I think most people in this room would really appreciate something like that. But I think if you try to sell that to someone who's in that mindset that they need Slimming World, something like that, they won't want to do it. I think it'd be brilliant, but it's how we'd get that across to people. That will be the challenge.